Okay, so in the last video we talked um, about the three different sections of the MicroWorlds EX development environment, and we said the command center in MicroWorlds is equivalent to the Python shell in Python. So now let's look at the procedures tab. Because to really make some interesting things happen, we have to write some procedures that do stuff, right? So you remember in logo, if we wanted to write a procedure, we would say to. I'm gonna write a procedure that squares numbers. To square x. So I said in logo we say to the name of the function that we want, and remember the function name has no spaces in it. So we only have a one-word function name, okay? And then we have, if there are any inputs, we put a colon in front of them and the variable name. So I'm going to say to square colon x output. So this is going to be a reporter. Output x times x. And then to end the definition of the procedure, we type in the word end. So remember, this is basically the recipe for how this procedure gets done. So what happens is when we type things into the command center or other places, like in the rules tab, say for the turtle or someplace like that, when the procedure gets invoked, logo first tries to see if it has any primitive commands, like it knows already how to do show, right? If it can find it, then it'll say, okay, good, I know how to do that. If it can't find the procedure name among its primitives, it'll check for if there are any procedures that you wrote that will tell it how to interpret the procedure name, right? So if you type in, so square, we're making it a reporter because we have this output keyword in here, right? So we're going to say, so we need to say something like show, right? Show the square of 5, okay? So now when logo sees the word square, it knows that's not a primitive that it has. It goes and looks in the procedure tab and says, oh, this is how you do it. So these are the steps. So if I say show square 5 and hit return, bam, knows how to do it. Okay? So let's see how that works in Python land. I'm going to click on idle again. So now we're in idle. Now we want to write a procedure in idle. Let's shift this over a little bit because we're going to need some space here. Not too much. Okay. So what we do is in idle we say new window, and it pops up a window that looks kind of like, I don't know, Notepad or text edit if you're in on a Mac like I am. And here you can type in your procedures. Now in MicroWorlds, notice I have this word here, procedure tab, and that doesn't confuse MicroWorlds at all. If only if it sees this to and this end does it try to interpret something as a procedure. Okay, if it just sees random words outside of this, to and end, then it won't get confused. In idle, what you need to do, and in Python, in any Python code that you create, what you need to do is add comments. So add special characters in front if you're going to just write something that you don't want the Python interpreter to interpret. You have to put in comments. So I'm going to show you an example of comments. So this is going to be my code. Okay, and so I'm typing in the name. This is the name I'm going to give the file. I'm going to call it mycode.py. I'll do that in a second. But I just want to show you an example of a string that you can do. Let's see. So this is going to just be an example of a function written in Python. Okay, and I'm going to, oops, I'm going to put this like that. Okay, so I started with 3 quotation marks, the double quotation marks, and I ended with 3. Okay, so that's so everything inside of those 3 quotation marks, and you see how it's highlighted in green. That's that means if you're a Python interpreter, just ignore this. This is not this is not a procedure or a function, anything like that. And so let me save this first. Let me see, file, save. Okay, and I said I was going to call it mycode.py, and I'm sticking this with my bits and blocks stuff. Okay, so this is the comment, and this in particular, this comment at the top of a file is called your doc string, and it's good to stick something like that up at the top. And now I am going to actually, let me show you something first real quick. You could actually just well, no, I changed my mind. I said I'm gonna do an example of a function, so I'm gonna do an example of a function. So in MicroWorlds we said we did a square function. I'm going to define a square function in Python. So in MicroWorlds we use the word procedure. In Python we call them functions. Okay, so I'm going to define a function called square. So instead of the keyword to, I have this keyword def, that's short for define, and then I have square, and for the inputs, which we call parameters in Python, the parameters go inside of parentheses like this. And you notice when I closed off the parentheses, I got this gray rectangle. That's just telling me, so that that marks the beginning, shows me the beginning and the end of those parentheses, which is kind of helpful to have. And then I'm going to put a colon here, and that's what the top line, the signature line of the function looks like in Python. Then I'm going to hit enter, and notice that I don't know if you can see it in the video, but the blinking cursor does not go all the way back to the beginning. It's indented, and this indentation is really important. If I start typing to make sure you can see, the indentation is really important in Python, this white space right here. The Python interpreter actually looks for white space to decide how different statements are grouped together. So you really need to pay attention to that, and you will run into trouble with it at one point or another, but just to be aware that that's a really important issue. Now, instead of the keyword output, I have this word return. I'm going to say x times x, and save that. Okay, and now I'm going to say run module. Seems like it ought to make something happen in here, but really all that happens is I get this restart message and a prompt again, and what that says is now this function is defined, so now I can use my square function. So now I can say square 5 and it prints it out. So that's how you write functions in Python.